For more on the debate and clarification on our stance, I'm joined by David Studer, the Director of Journalistic Standards and Practices with the CBC. So
hi,
certainly,
Andrew.
hi, and thank you for explaining this to us, because there's certainly a lot of people asking that question.
Absolutely.
So what went through our thinking? What went
Well,
through
we
your
start
thinking?
from the principle that we are a responsible news organization. Part of our job as Canada's national broadcaster is to promote tolerance and respect, and to recognize that unlike some other religions, in this case, some other religions where you see statues and you see pictures of deities, it's one of the tenets of Islam that the Prophet not be depicted in pictures or cartoons. Now, Charlie Hebdo obviously was particularly provocative about this, and and that's probably why it was targeted. It's almost certainly why it was targeted. But this isn't about the quality of the cartoons or whether they were funny or not. It's the fact that these images existed at all that's at the heart of this. And the first objection people have to this is that you have to see them to understand the story. And I disagree. The fact that they existed is what provoked this, not how outrageous they were, how provocative they were, but that there were images at all. And we made another decision yesterday that there was a policeman lying wounded on the street, on the sidewalk, and one of the gunmen, as they were leaving, walked by and very casually and coldly executed him. We didn't use that.
We didn't use that, but some would say that's it's one thing to show a beheading, for instance, or another thing to show a police officer being shot in cold blood. Another thing to show a cartoon that is a central part of the story.
I understand that, but I don't think you have to see the image. I don't think in this case, you don't have to see an image to understand that there was an image, and that for us to reproduce the image, it is reproducing something that is offensive to people in a mainstream major religion, most of whom aren't gunmen who went into Charlie Hebdo, but are people living their lives and entitled to their beliefs.
And there will be others who will say, you know what, you're making a choice, you're being more sensitive to people's freedom of religion or religious sensibilities than you are to other people who really believe in freedom of expression and freedom of the press, and are offended that we would make that decision.
Yeah, and I think that argument's got a hole in it, because I think, as I say, nothing particularly important turns on seeing these things. That they exist, like I've seen them. Anyone who wants to go online can see them. You don't learn much from seeing them beyond the fact that there are cartoons, they're cartoons that some people might find funny, some others might find offensive. And I think our job is to stand back from that and say, look, they're there, they happened, this provoked this response, but we wouldn't have shown them the day before. Just because these gunmen did what they did isn't going to provoke us into it.
People say that, a lot of people are saying we're cowards. That's the word that keeps coming up over and over again, that this is a cowardly choice.
And well, as I've explained, the reason why we made the choice is the reason we made the choice, and it isn't out of fear. I don't, particularly...
But are you making an exception for Islam? Because, there have been some very controversial images of Jesus Christ that we feel comfortable showing, maybe not comfortable, but that we do show because it's part of the story. So are you making an exception for one religion?
Well, I think this is a religion for whom a central tenet of the belief is that this, there were a lot of debates in the history of Islam about iconography and about not wanting to create a situation where the Prophet was being worshipped as a deity. And I think you have to respect that. And I think the idea of cowardice is really interesting, because I think if you're saying us not running these things means the bad guys win, my view is that remaining civilized and sticking to our principles is what defeats bad guys, not giving in to the emotion of the moment.
All right, so yesterday we spoke with Caroline Locker, the director of the Quebec Federation of Professional Journalists. Let's just listen into what she had to say.
And we need to keep on being brave. And if the CBC decides that they don't want to show the cartoons, it's up to them. And I'd just like to say, because I am in Montreal, the French side of the CBC, Radio-Canada, is showing these cartoons. And many, many media around the world have decided to collaborate and show togetherness and show strength, that they will not bend in front of this terrorism threat, and that freedom of press is very much alive.
All right, so there was Carolyn. I know you couldn't hear that clip, but I know you know that you saw that interview.
saw
And she's
it yesterday,
basically saying that Radcan, so our French service colleagues, have decided to show the images. So then it looks like, well, wait a second, how come the English service is not and the French side is?
And you know what? It's that's above my pay grade to explain. They made their decision. We made ours at the highest levels at CBC.
So what do you think about others
showing? I think that's the kind of the objections are you need to see it to understand it. I don't agree. Not to show it is cowardice. I don't believe that either because. As I've explained. The third is that we should be doing this in solidarity. And my view is that you come to work every day, and every organizations around this country have ribbons and pins and things you could be wearing every day in solidarity with something. When the RCMP officers are shot in New Brunswick for the very fact of being RCMP officers, or the soldiers are shot in Quebec and Ottawa for the very fact that they're soldiers, somebody feels solidarity with them. We don't we don't take sides. We're not engaged in that way, and I don't think we can be more engaged for journalists than we are in other circumstances. That's not our job. Our job is to report the story, not to tell people how we feel about the story, however strongly we may feel.
David, we appreciate you coming and explaining it to us.
I've enjoyed
Thank you very
this.
much.
Thank you.
David Studer, the Director of Journalistic Standards and Practices with the CBC.